I've just turned off Park Road and now going down to Cocken Farm, and in a minute we'll cross the railway line, and from there we'll be able to get a view of the channel behind Walnut Island. Well, we're now at the north end of Walnut Channel on the mainland side, and there's the black huts, as they call them locally, at Lousy Point, and we'll have to do an episode over there sometime because, believe it or not, there's some mining history to be seen over there with evidence still on the ground. And here's the North Channel, and believe me, when the tide's in, this can just look like a Pacific atoll, you know, that kind of thing. Yes, when the tide's fully up, water all the way across, and on a sunny day, just convince yourself it's some tropical atoll somewhere. It's gorgeous, especially if there's a couple of sailboats or something on it. It just looks wonderful. At high tide only, obviously, because when the tide's out, it looks pretty much as it does now. But up here, there's actually a bit of military history. So Poppet stood there, and it's an old pillbox. It obviously used to be up on the embankment, but the spring tides have nibbled away at the ground underneath it. Over the last 50 or 60 years, tides have nibbled away underneath it, and out it's popped, and now it is there on its edge. And I've been trying to think, is it closest to a 20p or a 50p to describe its form? I think 50p is the closest to it. You know, the form that describes its shape best. So here it is in the other elevation with the gun ports and such forth, and it's just a huge massive concrete structure. These pillboxes of course used to dot the coastline when there was a threat of invasion and such forth, and I suppose this North Channel would have been perceived as a good landing place for gliders and stormtroopers if we were to have been attacked and invaded. I'm just surmising, of course, that that was the intent of putting these pillboxes here. So what we're looking at here is the underside, like an upside down plan view, an inverted plan view if you like. There's the doorway, gun ports, and I suppose that's a blast wall there, so if someone lobbed a grenade in, you could hunker down behind that and protect yourself from the immediate blast. And I imagine this was the concrete base that it would have been sat on presumably the top of the bank, but like I say, it's been eroded by the tides, but it's been undermined over time, and it's just sort of rolled and lolled itself onto the beach. Flopped out, you might say. Just a mere 40 tons of concrete, or whatever it weighs. An unusual feature. I saw what she saw on the foreshore of the seashore. Just look at those wonderful lakeland hills and the view beyond, with sunshine on them. We've actually had hailstones today while we've been doing this episode. Blinking hailstones. It's something like the 28th or the 29th of April. Well, there's actually 3 upturned pillboxes along this stretch of the shore. Up here by Sowerby Lodge, there's that one there, and then there's this one here. Again, all nibbled away by the tides until they just start to sort of flop out. Well, there's North Scale on the far side of the channel, and up here of course are what's left of the slag banks. Now this slag bank is a significant feature and a testament to the viability of the Bessemer steel process, largely centred on this town. The Barrow Iron and Steel Works, of course, exporting products all around the world. And although this slag bank has to some extent been denuded by quarrying for roadstone and that sort of thing, it still stands as a landmark feature to the industry of this town. Also of interest here, in a historic shipping context, is this little feature here, this little streamlet. And this here is what I believe to be the vestigial remains of a place called Pallas Nook. Now, back in the day, in the 16 and 1700s, that was, of course, before the time that this slag bank itself began to encroach upon this inlet, and indeed the channel itself. So the shoreline would have looked differently here back in those days. There would have been a little cove, I suppose you might say, and it's called Pallas Nook. Now, Pallas Nook is mentioned lots in the accounts of old shipping. For example, there's a transcription in the Records Office dated 1737, and it's called Pile of Foudry, an account of all ships and vessels that have anchored within the Liberty of Furness, under the tutelage of the Duke of Montague. And that's an account of ships that anchored, and they paid something like 3 or 4D old money just for the privilege of beaching to unship or load goods. And this is the place which is mentioned quite often within that account, i.e. Pallas Nook. And I'll show you a map in a second. So again, in this sort of promotional context, not that these maps have got anything to do with me, I'm just saying if you're interested in history, get them, they're good. Now this Pallas Nook isn't mentioned as a place on modern maps because A, it doesn't exist really as a place anymore, and B, it's just a name that's fallen out of fashion. But do you see right at the top of the map there? It's called Pallas Nook, and it's only on old maps such as these where you'll find out where that place actually was back then.